God said, "Witches hide these in home," a warning, a truth, a revelation, not just a sentence, but a signal to awaken your spirit. You were never meant to walk through this life unaware of the forces around you. There are things in this world, unseen, unspoken, that work quietly to pull you off your path, distract your purpose, and crush your focus. And sometimes those things aren't out there, they're inside. Inside the home, inside the heart, inside the habits we refuse to confront. What if the battle isn't always external? What if what's blocking your progress, your peace, your breakthrough is something hidden, something subtle, something you've grown so used to that you don't even question it anymore? Witches don't always come with broomsticks and dark shadows. Sometimes they come dressed as distractions. Sometimes they come wrapped in comfort. Sometimes they look like fear, envy, bitterness, laziness, or spiritual blindness. Things that take up residence in your home and your heart, whispering lies in the background of your life. There are moments in life when everything seems to stall, not because of a lack of opportunity or effort, but because something unseen is silently working against you. These aren't always obvious enemies or external attacks. In fact, they're often subtle and deeply familiar. They take the shape of habits you defend, relationships you justify, thoughts you entertain, and environments you've grown used to. The most dangerous distractions aren't the loud ones that scream for attention. They're the quiet ones that blend into your everyday life so completely that you stop noticing them. You assume they're normal. You call them harmless. But deep down, they're draining your strength, dulling your spirit, and blocking your breakthrough. Spiritual distractions rarely announce themselves. They don't enter your life with warnings or alarms. Instead, they come disguised as comfort, routine, or even logic. A late-night habit that steals your clarity the next day. A friendship that seems close, yet constantly plants seeds of doubt or negativity. A mindset that tells you to play it safe rather than trust your calling. These things don't look like enemies at first glance, but they work against your purpose. Over time, they become familiar, and when something becomes familiar, you stop questioning it. That's how they hide. That's how they remain undetected. They survive by looking like part of the furniture in your life. This is where the danger lies. When something spiritually toxic blends into the background of your life, you begin to live with it, accommodate it, and eventually defend it. You stop seeing it as a threat, and instead, you see it as just part of your story. You make room for it. You organize your schedule around it. You let it influence your energy, your mood, your goals. And before you know it, you're no longer operating at your highest level. Not because you don't want to, but because your focus is fractured and your spirit is heavy. People often look for external reasons why their progress feels slow. They blame timing, luck, or the opinions of others, but the real issue might be something hidden within. The clutter isn't always physical. Sometimes it's emotional, mental, or spiritual. Sometimes it's the music you listen to, the media you consume, the conversations you tolerate, or the internal dialogue you never challenge. These distractions don't just keep you busy. They keep you bound. They keep you spiritually dull, and that's exactly how they win. To move forward, you must learn to recognize what has taken root in your life that doesn't align with your purpose. You must become intentional about identifying what you've allowed to dwell in your space. And that takes brutal honesty, because no one wants to admit that the thing they enjoy might also be the thing that's holding them back. But growth requires truth, and freedom demands awareness. You can't cast out what you're not willing to confront. You can't overcome what you continue to excuse. Once you recognize these hidden spiritual distractions, you have a choice to make. You can keep pretending they're harmless, or you can begin the process of letting them go. That doesn't always mean immediate removal. It can start with boundaries, with limiting exposure, with replacing old habits with new ones that align with who you're becoming. Every step matters. Every decision brings you closer to clarity. You don't need to overhaul your life in a day. You just need to be willing to see what you've refused to see for too long. This awareness brings power. Suddenly, you realize that the power to grow was always in your hands, not in other people's approval, not in circumstances, but in your own choices. You begin to guard your space with greater intention. You become more sensitive to what you allow into your home, your heart, and your mind. And with that discernment comes a new level of focus. You're no longer reacting to life. You're directing it. You're not being controlled by unseen distractions. You're taking authority over your atmosphere. The truth is, your life will always reflect what you allow. If you tolerate spiritual clutter, confusion, and compromise, you'll feel stuck and overwhelmed. But if you start cleaning house, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you create space for peace, power, and purpose to flourish. And that's where breakthrough begins, not in the applause of others or the arrival of perfect conditions, but in the quiet, private decision to confront what's been hiding in plain sight. That decision changes everything. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You're no longer blind to the distractions. You're no longer accepting what doesn't belong. You're moving with clarity, and from here on out, nothing hidden will have power over you. One of the greatest barriers to spiritual growth and breakthrough isn't lack of opportunity, talent, or resources. It's the unwillingness to confront and remove what doesn't belong. So many people want to be free, but they keep holding on to the very things that are keeping them bound. It's a quiet contradiction, asking for clarity while clinging to confusion, praying for peace while entertaining chaos, desiring purpose while preserving distractions. You can't move forward while dragging the weight of what no longer fits your future. And yet, it's so easy to justify the things we've grown used to, even when they no longer serve us. There are things in our lives that feel comfortable, but are actually destructive. These are the behaviors, thoughts, and environments that offer temporary relief while causing long-term damage. They provide a false sense of safety because they're familiar, but just because something feels normal doesn't mean it's right. Just because something is tolerated doesn't mean it should be kept. When something is slowly draining your energy, limiting your vision, or weakening your spirit, it needs to go, no matter how attached you are to it. The process of letting go is often painful because it challenges our comfort. It forces us to examine not just what we do, but why we do it. It calls us to face our excuses, our fears, and our pride. That's not easy. It's far more convenient to pretend that what's hurting us isn't really that bad. But ignoring a problem doesn't solve it. You can't wish away bondage. You have to break it. And breaking it means stepping into discomfort, walking away from what's easy, and choosing what's right even when it's hard. True change begins with confrontation. You have to be willing to look at your life honestly and ask, what am I still holding on to that I should have released a long time ago? That might be a toxic friendship, a secret habit, a limiting belief, or even a spiritual laziness that keeps you stuck. Whatever it is, if it's standing between you and the life you're called to live, it needs to be removed. You can't heal in the same environment that made you sick. You can't grow in soil that's full of weeds. You can't walk in power while dragging the chains of your past. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being free, and freedom doesn't come by accident. It comes through intentional action. It comes when you stop explaining away dysfunction and start calling it out. It comes when you recognize that comfort isn't worth the cost of your calling. If something is costing you your peace, your clarity, your connection to God, it's too expensive. No relationship, habit, or environment is worth your spiritual alignment. The price is too high. Letting go also means trusting that what lies ahead is greater than what's behind. That's what keeps many people stuck. They fear that if they release what's familiar, they'll be left with nothing. But you can't receive what's next if your hands are still full of what was. Faith requires space. It needs room to grow, to stretch, to move. When you remove what's been taking up space in your heart and mind, you make room for new strength, fresh vision, and deeper purpose. Sometimes we wait for God to take something away, but He's waiting on us to give it up. He's given us the wisdom, the discernment, and the strength to walk away, but we have to choose to use it. Deliverance is not just divine, it's also disciplined. It's not just a prayer, it's a practice. You can't just ask to be free and then go back to what kept you bound. You have to act like you believe your freedom is worth the fight, and it is a fight. It's a battle between the old you and the new you, between comfort and growth, between fear and faith. Every time you choose to remove what doesn't belong, you weaken the hold of the past and strengthen your grip on your purpose. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet and difficult, but every step matters. Every choice to release is a victory, and over time, those small victories become transformation. So if you truly want to grow, if you want to be clear, focused, and powerful in your purpose, you have to stop holding on to what holds you back. You have to be bold enough to let go, even when it's hard, even when it hurts. Because on the other side of that release is freedom, and that freedom is the foundation of everything you're called to become. Many people go through life unaware of how much their surroundings are influencing them. They wake up feeling drained, they walk through their day with a foggy mind, and they struggle to stay focused or spiritually sharp. It's not always because something is wrong inside them. Sometimes it's because of what surrounds them. The environment you live in, your home, your relationships, your routine, your habits, has a profound impact on the condition of your spirit and the clarity of your purpose. What you allow in your space eventually makes its way into your heart. That's why it's not just important to take care of your inner world. It's essential to guard what's around you. There are unseen influences that work quietly but powerfully in the background of your life. They don't always scream or threaten. Sometimes they whisper. A small compromise here, a little distraction there, a song that plants doubt, a conversation that feeds insecurity, a show that slowly reshapes your values. These things don't seem like much in isolation, but over time, they form the atmosphere in which you live and think and grow, or don't grow. The enemy doesn't always attack directly. Sometimes he just surrounds you with enough spiritual noise to make you forget your identity, your mission, and your strength. What surrounds you is either feeding your purpose or starving it. You cannot expect to stay spiritually sharp if your environment is dull, careless, or toxic. You cannot expect to feel close to God when everything around you pulls you away from Him. People often say they feel stuck, that they're not hearing clearly, or that their faith feels weak. In many cases, it's not a lack of desire, but a lack of spiritual protection over their space. The spirit can't breathe in a place filled with clutter and confusion, and when you're constantly exposed to chaos, it's hard to hear the voice of clarity. It's not just about physical things, it's about spiritual atmosphere. What energy fills your home? What words echo in your space? Is there constant complaining, gossip, or criticism? Or is there worship, encouragement, and peace? The spiritual climate of your home becomes the foundation of your decisions. It becomes the soil where your thoughts are planted, and if the soil is poisoned, the fruit will always be bitter, no matter how much you water it. That's why it's so important to be intentional. You must become the gatekeeper of your space, your mind, and your spirit. Not everything deserves access. Not everyone should be allowed close. Not every habit is harmless. Discernment is your filter. It helps you recognize when something seems off, even if it looks harmless. It helps you say no when something feels spiritually heavy, even if others think it's fine. And it keeps you focused when the world tries to pull you in every direction. People underestimate the power of what they allow into their homes. But the truth is, your home is your sanctuary. It should be the place where peace lives, where faith grows, and where purpose is strengthened. But if you allow disorder, negativity, or spiritual laziness to settle in, it will change the atmosphere. It will dull your senses. It will create confusion where there should be clarity, and the longer it stays, the harder it becomes to recognize the shift. Sometimes the change begins with something as simple as silence. Turning off the noise, stepping back from constant stimulation, and allowing yourself to listen. Other times it requires deeper action, removing certain influences, changing your routine, or even separating from certain people. This isn't about judgment or fear. It's about protection. It's about making room for what matters most. Because when your space is clear, your mind becomes clear. And when your mind is clear, your spirit can move with purpose. The people you let close, the content you consume, the conversations you engage in, they all matter. They are seeds, and every seed produces something. The question is, what are you planting in your life? What are you watering every day without even realizing it? If it's not leading you toward strength, peace, and faith, it's leading you away from it. That's not something to ignore. That's something to confront. Your purpose is too important to be buried under spiritual noise. Your clarity is too valuable to be clouded by careless influence. And your peace is too sacred to be traded for comfort. Guard your space. Protect your spirit, and choose to create an atmosphere that supports who you are becoming. Not who you were, not who others want you to be, but who you are called to be. Because when your environment aligns with your purpose, everything in your life begins to shift. Your energy returns, your focus sharpens, and your spirit finally breathes again. There is a moment in every person's life when they realize that the real transformation they are seeking cannot happen unless they make a firm and final decision to shut the door to certain people, habits, and patterns. So many are stuck in cycles not because they lack desire or discipline, but because they leave the door cracked open to the very things that once broke them. They ask for healing, but still entertain the voices that caused the wound. They seek growth, but continue to flirt with old comfort zones. They want to move forward, but leave space for the past to return. Nothing changes until you close the door completely. Living with 1 foot in your purpose and 1 foot in your past is a recipe for spiritual confusion. You feel torn, divided, and out of sync. Not because you don't know where to go, but because you haven't yet decided what to leave behind. The most dangerous position isn't being lost, it's being undecided. Because when you're undecided, you remain vulnerable. You leave open windows in your soul for old fears to crawl back in. You leave unguarded pathways for negative thinking to return. And the truth is, as long as something has access to you, it has influence over you. The path to breakthrough always requires separation. Separation from the familiar, from the people who no longer align with your growth, from the mindsets that kept you stuck. It's not about being harsh or cold, it's about being clear. You have to be clear about what deserves a place in your life. Not everything that comes knocking deserves to be let in. And not everyone who was once part of your story deserves a seat in your future. Elevation demands isolation, not in the sense of loneliness, but in the sense of clarity and boundaries. Boundaries are not walls to keep love out. They are gates to protect your purpose. Without them, your energy gets scattered. Your peace gets disturbed, your vision gets clouded, and when your life lacks boundaries, anything can walk in, stay as long as it likes, and leave a mess behind. You're left cleaning up emotional and spiritual clutter that never should have entered in the first place. That's why it's not just important to know your purpose, it's crucial to protect it. Because a powerful calling without protection is a vulnerable target. The mistake many people make is believing they can manage dysfunction instead of removing it. They think they can keep a toxic relationship under control. They believe they can handle temptation without consequence. They assume they can play with fire and not get burned. But spiritual strength is not about managing your weaknesses. It's about eliminating the opportunities for them to grow. It's about being honest with yourself and recognizing that some doors need to be shut permanently, not half, closed, not monitored, but locked and sealed. Making that decision doesn't mean you're bitter or unforgiving. It means you're focused. It means you understand that your future is too important to be negotiated with the past. It means you know that healing requires space. Space away from what hurt you, space to hear clearly again, space to rebuild without interruption. The more space you give to your purpose, the more powerful you become. The more distractions you remove, the more your true voice begins to rise. That voice has always been there. It's just been drowned out by the noise of things you've tolerated too long. You must become the kind of person who respects their peace enough to protect it fiercely, who values their calling enough to say no unapologetically, who chooses alignment over attachment. It won't always feel good. Saying no will sometimes be lonely. Closing doors will sometimes stir up fear. But temporary discomfort is worth the lasting reward. And eventually you'll look back and realize that what you thought you needed was only holding you back from what you were truly called to become. Deciding to shut the door isn't just about keeping something out. It's about making room for something greater. You'll never know what can grow in your life until you remove what's been taking up space. You'll never see how far you can rise until you cut the weights from your feet. And you'll never step fully into who you're meant to be until you stop negotiating with the things that keep pulling you away from that identity. The power of your next level lies in your ability to say, enough, that chapter is over, that energy is not welcome, that cycle ends with me. This is where transformation begins, not in the loud declarations, but in the quiet, firm decisions made in private. The door is shut, the line is drawn, and from this point forward your life moves with a different kind of clarity, not just because you know who you are, but because you've finally made room for that version of you to live without interference. There comes a moment when you realize that everything you've been chasing, peace, purpose, strength, clarity, has been waiting on one thing: your commitment to spiritual discipline. It's not the absence of pain or chaos that brings peace. It's the presence of habits that anchor you when the storm comes. Spiritual discipline is the foundation that keeps your faith from crumbling when life doesn't go your way. It is the decision to show up for yourself, for your purpose, and for your growth, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one sees it, even when there's no applause or immediate reward. Discipline is the invisible architecture of a powerful life. While the world celebrates outward success, discipline builds what no one sees. It strengthens your character, aligns your thoughts, and clarifies your direction. Without it, even the most gifted people fall apart. Talent without discipline leads to inconsistency. Passion without discipline becomes noise. Faith without discipline lacks roots and gets blown away by the first strong wind. But when you build your life on consistent spiritual practices, prayer, reflection, fasting, focus, integrity, you become unshakable, not because trouble won't come, but because you'll know how to stand when it does. There's a reason discipline doesn't feel exciting. It's not supposed to entertain you. It's designed to shape you. It trains your mind to listen when your emotions scream. It teaches you to respond with wisdom when life pushes your buttons. It helps you stay calm in the face of chaos because you're not reacting. You're rooted. And that kind of stillness, that unshakable inner calm, doesn't come from wishful thinking or positive vibes. It comes from doing the work in private, from choosing the hard thing over the easy excuse, from investing in habits that carry you when your feelings betray you. Many people want the results of discipline without the lifestyle that produces it. They want peace but won't guard their thoughts. They want focus but won't eliminate distractions. They want a deeper connection to God but won't commit time to prayer or reflection. But discipline requires more than desire. It demands action. It's the small, daily decisions that slowly transform your entire life. Waking up early to focus, saying no to things that weaken your spirit, choosing silence when drama tempts you, walking away from things that look good but cost too much spiritually. These moments, repeated consistently, turn into power. Discipline is not punishment, it's protection. It shields your time, your energy, your clarity. It filters what gets your attention. It reminds you of who you are and what you're building. And when you live with discipline, you stop getting pulled into cycles of chaos. You stop chasing approval. You stop doubting your path every time things get difficult. You learn to move with peace, not panic. You learn to fight battles from a place of confidence, not confusion. You carry a kind of authority that can't be faked. Because it comes from inner order, there's a cost to living with discipline. It means you won't always fit in. You'll have to walk away from shortcuts. You'll have to disappoint people who want your energy without respecting your boundaries. But there's also a cost to living without it. You stay stuck. You repeat the same lessons. You move through life reactive instead of proactive. Eventually, you realize that discipline doesn't restrict your life. It rescues it. It gives you the tools to rise above what once broke you. It prepares you for opportunities you would have missed if you were still living scattered and distracted. When you prioritize discipline, you build momentum. Each day becomes a step forward, no matter how small. You stop relying on motivation and start relying on commitment. Motivation fades, but discipline remains, and the more you practice it, the stronger you become. You stop looking for escape and start building endurance. You stop seeking comfort and start seeking growth, and your life begins to reflect the kind of strength that doesn't just survive pressure, it thrives in it. A disciplined spirit is a dangerous one, dangerous to fear, to doubt, to anything that tried to stop you. Because once you commit to discipline, you become consistent, and when you become consistent, you become unstoppable. The world may still throw storms your way, but you will no longer be tossed by every wave. You will stand, you will rise, you will lead, not because it's easy, but because you've built your foundation in the quiet hours when no one was watching. And that foundation will carry you into everything you were born to become.